everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my top 10 favorites of 2022. Drum roll. That was a drum roll on the books in front of me. We finally reached it. It is officially the end of the year. Not really. It is currently December 21st that I'm filming this. It is the winter solstice. There are still 10 days left in December for me to read more books, but these are my favorites. And I don't think this list is going to change that much in the next 10 days unless something absolutely wonderful happens. But we're going to get to it. And these are in a specific order. I put them in order this year. Happy with myself. We're going to get into it. And before we start, I want to know your favorite reads of 2022. I want to know. Gush about them down below. Top 3, top 5, top 10. Let me know what they are. I want to know. I want to know. I love talking about favorite books. I love talking about books that affected you this year. All that good stuff. So we're just going to get into it. All right. Number 10. Coming in at number 10 is somebody who's becoming a favorite author of mine. And that is Margaret Owen's Little Thieves. This one was an absolute delight. I really loved one of her previous books, The Merciful Crow. I have not yet read the second to that one, but I want to because it is one of my favorites as well. It was like a surprise 5-star for me. So when I went into this one, I knew kind of what to expect with Margaret Owen's writing, but this story was just so much fun, and it honestly blew me away. This is just, I don't even know how to describe this book. Yeah, this one has like interesting winter kind of vibes to me. It follows Vanya, who is the goddaughter, stepdaughter, something daughter, goddaughter, adopted goddaughter, that's what it is, of Death and Fortune. And at the beginning of this, she gets herself tied up in a terrible bargain where she has to basically return all of the wealth that she has been stealing, or she's going to turn into rubies, and her whole body starts like sprouting rubies and jewels and stuff as the story goes on, and she's kind of in a time crunch, if you will. So I really liked it. I liked the relationships in here, and the characters in here was so good. But yes, this is number 10. All right, number 9, actually I do not have with me right now. My friend is currently borrowing it. I will use the first one as a stand-in. So the book is actually Temple of No God, which is the sequel to Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long, the companion sequel. Absolutely love this. H.M. Long, Hannah Long, is one of my favorite authors of all time, and a friend of mine, which is wild to say. But I absolutely love this series, book 1 and book 2. Just incredible. I reread book 1 this year to prepare for book 2. I read them right in sequence of each other, and it was absolutely amazing. You do not have to read the series in order. There are going to be 4. The third one is being released in a couple weeks in January, which is very exciting. I'm so excited for Barrow of Winter. It's ridiculous. And then the last one, I believe, is being released the following winter. I think it's 2024 where that one's coming out. She also has another book in a brand new series coming out in July next year, so we're getting just all the H.M. Long content, and I love it. This series, it follows, well, Temple specifically follows Hessa again, who is the main character of this book, but it is 12 years in the future, 12 years after the events of this book, and it follows her kind of trying to figure out this new power that's coming into play, this new like death cult. There's different things happening. There's a new war kind of on the horizon, and she has more people now than she did in the previous book, and she's got more people relying on her. She's a priestess, I think, of the goddess of war. It's all this interesting stuff. The vibes of these books feels like Skyrim and this intense, like, you know those drone shots you see on TikTok sometimes of people going through the mountains of like really snowy areas? That's what these books feel like. They feel like Skyrim, they feel like that. I'm so excited for Barrow of Winter. The Temple of No God also deals with gods and cults and stuff like that, which is really interesting. So I really liked it, and that's why it's on this favorites list. Number 9. Number 8 is the only non-fantasy book on this entire list. And that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. It was just lovely. I love Emily Henry's work. I absolutely love her adult romances. I have not yet read any of her previous things, like her young adult books that she wrote previously to her endeavoring into the adult romance sphere. But Beach Read and Book Lovers, some of my favorite books ever, some of my favorite romance books. People we met on vacation can leave. But Book Lovers is my favorite of the 3. I absolutely love this. This felt like a breath of fresh air compared to some of the romance books that I have read, where, you know, there's always that like big drama fallout, and there was one in here as well, but it felt more realistic in here than it has and a more adult reasoning and talking through stuff than it has felt in most romance books. I feel like that like 75% of the way through Fallout is just done as a like, well, it happens in every romance book, so we need to add it into this one as well kind of a thing, and it feels like too drama or whatever, but this one just handled it really well. I absolutely adored the romance between our two main characters, Charlie and Nora, and it felt right. The banter was perfect. I loved it. So this follows Nora and Charlie, who are kind of professional rivals a little bit. Charlie is an editor and Nora is an agent, and Charlie did not want to work on the book that Nora was like pitching him or something. They had a bad first meeting. Years later, we pick up the story again after the prologue, and that book is now a hit, and she gets invited to go spend a month in the town where this book is set by her sister. It's like this sister relationship happening, and that's where she sees Charlie Lastra again, and they start having a romance and all this kind of stuff. But I really loved it, and that's why it's on this list, number 8. Number 7 is one of the most recent books that I finished. I think it is the most recent book that I did finish, and that is Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. I adored this book. I have my qualms with it, but it is still a perfect book with what we got. And I think that is wonderful. It's very rare that I have a favorite book where I'm like, you know what, I would have done this differently. But I still really love how it was done. So rare for that to happen, but it did, because this is still a 5. I should have put a caveat on this video. All of these books are 5 stars. There you go. This was just exceptional. I absolutely love this. So this is an Arthurian retelling of The Lady of Shalott, which is, I guess it's also a retelling of Lord Alfred Tennyson's poem, The Lady of Shalott. It's taking that concept and that character, the Lady of Shalott, and making her real and more real and more, you know, a proper character and not just a tragic feminine figure. Okay, so this follows Elaine, who is the Lady of Shalott. She has a like seer or an oracle, they call her in this, and she can see the future, and she weaves the future into a loom to like see the images of it so that she can remember the images and then destroys them. She's not allowed to tell anyone about these images and these visions that she sees, because obviously knowing the future is an incredibly heavy weight to carry. But it follows Elaine as she is King Arthur's advisor, and getting him on the throne. That is basically the plot of this. We follow Elaine during this current timeline as she's dealing with Morgana, Gwen, Lancelot, and Arthur, and all of them trying to get Arthur onto the throne and dealing with the issues around that. And it also follows the visions that Elaine is having of the future, and these moments that she knows are going to come to pass, or these big massive changes that are going to come to pass, and all these possibilities, because the future is never stagnant. And it also follows the past. It follows them on Avalon, growing up together. And it is just a stunning book. It is so beautifully written. Everything about this is my favorite. I loved it so much. So yeah, that is why it's on this list. It made me absolutely brutal sob at the end. If I was writing this myself, I probably would have made it a little bit more epic and would have brought a lot of those visions to life, and I would have loved to see them come to life. But I understand and totally respect what Laura Sebastian did with this book instead. And I just, exceptional. And you know how I am with Arthurian retellings, so if you've been around on my channel for a while. And then speaking of Arthurian retellings, 7, that was number 7. Okay, number 6 is Spear by Nicola Griffith, which is a gender-bent Arthurian retelling of the myth of Peritar, I think. This is one of the myths, and it explains it in the back, like in the author's note, was that Peritar is a being or a person from Camelot's mythology that is different. Peritar is named differently in many different things, many different of the tales, and there's Peritar, Peridar, Peridurus, Percival, Parzival, Parsifal. There are tales of the hero I call Peritar written in Old Welsh, Middle Welsh, Latin, Old French, Middle High German, Middle English, and a dizzying number of modern languages. So this being, whoever he is taken and turned into Peritar, who is the character in this book, and she is absolutely wondrous to follow. So it follows Peritar as she he kind of grows up a little bit, and it's this beautiful, lyrically told story of how Peretar meets the Lady of the Lake and becomes a knight of Camelot. And it is just gorgeous. It is sapphic. It is so good. It is perfect. Like, honestly, one of the most perfect novellas I have ever come across. It is my second favorite novella after Psalm for the Wild Built, which I read last year by Becky Chambers, which was my favorite book of the year. Absolutely stunning. Top 5, my friends. We're going into the top 5 already. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. Oh my gosh. Anyways, number 5 is the best book I've read this year, but not my favorite book that I read this year. That's what this list is. Favorite books, not best books. Favorite books of 2022, because this is the best book that I read this year, because it is an absolute masterpiece, and that is Babel by R.F. Kuang. This book blew me away. It is a linguistic masterpiece. The plot is so rich and thick. The history and the research done in this is just absolutely stunning, and you can feel on every page the care that went into this book. Just the story itself is just so wonderful as well, in a completely heartbreaking, disgustingly awful way. And yeah, this is the best book I've read this entire year, and I absolutely loved it. It's just not quite my top favorite. So this follows Robin Swift, who is a young Cantonese boy at the beginning of this book, and it follows his journey as he grows up and then goes to Oxford and becomes part of the silverworking. I think that's what it is. Silverworking, metalworking, silverworking, yep. Which is the art of like manifesting effects through these bars of silver and using languages to get these things to happen. So it has that little bit of touch of magic to it, but it is very based in Victorian era Oxford and that whole world there. It is seeped in realistic life, dealing with misogyny and racism and homophobia, all of it is on these pages. And it was incredibly painful to read, just due to that, and also due to the struggles that our characters go through outside of that. This book was a lot. This book was a lot. I remember getting to the end and feeling almost utterly hopeless, like there was nothing to hold on to. But R.F. Kuang kind of gave us a tiny flame of hope by the end, which was good. You needed that. And oh god, this was just wonderful. This was so good. Honestly, no notes. I wouldn't have done anything different. I couldn't have done this. What am I saying? Babel. One of those. Number 4 is one of the books that I read earlier this year, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is in a realm of its own for me. This book, along with books like The Starless Sea, which is my favorite book of all time, kind of sit in a almost other realm for rating books than a lot of other books that I read do. And it's very rare that I come across a book that makes me feel this way. And this was my favorite book of the year for a long time until I read my other 3. This book was so good. So good. The hype was real. The hype was enough. And I understand why a lot of people don't like it. Same with The Starless Sea. These 2 books, definitely polarizing, you either love it or you hate it kind of a book, you know? And I think that's because V.E. Schwab's writing style is just not for everybody. Same with The Starless Sea. They're very flowery, you know, metaphor filled, all that good stuff. This, so good. So it follows Addie LaRue, who is a young French woman from the 1700s, I do believe, 1714, who one night makes a deal with the wrong gods because she's terrified to be nothing. She's terrified to be married off and to become nothing more than a wife and something to create children and just waste away in existence. She wants to be able to live and experience life. And so in this deal, this dark god says, yes, I can do that for you. I can grant you basically immortal life. However, caveat, no one's gonna remember who you are. So she goes through life living and existing for herself and being able to live all these centuries where he's basically like, are you not tired of not being able to have all these relationships with people? Because people will meet Addie and then forget her as soon as she turns away. And she's not able to write, she's not able to leave a print on the world, which is something that she desperately wants to be able to do. But then one day, she's in current day, she's traveled all over, she's lived out of spite most of the time because she has her dark moments, and she meets annually, I believe, with the dark god. I don't remember his name. Lucian? Luke? She meets annually with him to kind of re-up their deal, sort of thing. Or no, maybe not annually, but every once in a while she meets with him. She lives defiantly in spite of him, even though no one remembers who she is. But then one day she walks into a bookshop and the bookseller remembers her. And so it starts their story. And that's what this is. It is a look through the life of Addie LaRue, and it is through Henry remembering who she is and helping her leave a mark on the world. And it is just absolutely beautiful, and I love books like this. I absolutely love books like this, which is why Starless Sea is my favorite book of all time. Loved this. That's why it's book number 4 on this list. All right, friends, we're in the top 3. Top 3! Let's go. All right, I wonder if you can guess them. You know what not number 1 is if you've been on my channel for a long time. You know, because I say it all the time. But, okay, so number 3 is The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. Oh my gosh, my ladies, my beloveds. Loved. This book is perfect. Absolutely perfect. It is the sequel to The Jasmine Throne. It continues the story of Malini and Priya. Malini, the imprisoned princess by the awful emperor, her brother, and Priya, her maidservant. This was just so good. I really can't explain anything other than that. The first book is the start of it all, the start of the revolution, the change, the everything, and this is just a continuation of that, and this ripped me apart, limb from limb. And I'm terrified for book 3, but I need it like now. It's really all I can say. It was so good. Top 2. Top 2. Okay, and they're very similar, both of these two, because they are both cozy fantasy, because cozy fantasy took over my life this year, as you guys know. This one, though, number 2, is one that I then had my friend read, who gave it 5 stars, and then my other friend was like, well, I guess I should read this too, even though it's not really my thing, doesn't like fantasy. She also gave it 5 stars. So we're just like making everybody read this book at this point, and that is The Very Secret Society of Regular Witches by Sangha. This was just perfection. Perfection! This is exactly what I want my romances to be. This was fantastic. This feels like The House in the Cerulean Sea, but so much better. I love this. I love this book. Oh my god. All right, so this follows Mika Moon, who is a witch, and in this world, witches cannot be near each other. It is a mandated thing because when more witches are in one area, more magic kind of accumulates and becomes very dangerous. So every 3 months or so, the witches kind of come together and share things that they've learned or they've discovered or they've created, and then they go their separate ways. Mika, because she's desperate for human connection in any way, starts a YouTube channel. She's a YouTuber at the beginning of this, and she decides that she is going to be a, you know, what we would consider witches, like the crystal and the vibes, which is, you know, the tarot witches that we see. She decided she's gonna be of that kind to share this magic online while actually being a witch, but like not like being like, look, magic is real, but you know, doing the internet witch thing. Through this, she gets found by this family, this kind of miscellaneous family, it's these 2 old men, a housekeeper, and this librarian, who are trying to raise these 3 little girls who are witches, and they're trying to do it in a way that, you know, these little girls are secret. They're like, their existence, the fact that the 3 of them are together, quite illegal in this witch community. And so they get Mika to come and be their tutor, essentially, to help them raise these little girls and teach them magic. And it was just so good. There's a scene in here where Mika collects starlight. I can't get that scene out of my head. It is so perfect, truly. And then it's a romance between her and the grumpy librarian. It is the grumpy sunshine best combination. The descriptions of magic in here were so perfect. They just epitomized the cozy vibes. I can't wait to reread it one day. That's number 2. So you can guess what number 1 is if you've been around on my channel for a while. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I also have the new UK hardcover version as well because I needed to. Once he published it through Tor, or once Tor picked it up, I had to get the Tor version of it, and I wanted like a hard copy of this book because it's one of my favorite books of all time. But I did pick it up originally when it was self-published, and I absolutely adored it. Every damn page of this book is cozy perfection. this has inspired me to write my own cozy fantasy series that is going to be coming for you guys, the start of which anyway in 2023, hopefully early spring 2023. So look out for that. Make sure to subscribe if you want to follow my writing journey. But Legends and Lattes is a story about Viv, who is this orc who decides one day she's done with the adventuring side of things. She just wants to settle down and open up a coffee shop in this town where nobody even knows what coffee is. And so she introduces coffee to this town. She creates these wonderful connections between Tandri, who is this lovely pink woman here, and we have Thimble, who is the ratkin on the back. This book will make you want coffee and donuts and like just to be surrounded by cinnamon buns and that sweet, delicious, sugary smell of a coffee shop. It is everything. It is everything that I want in a book. It is perfect. It is high fantasy because we have orcs and all these like Dungeons and Dragons-esque beings in this little town, and it's so slice of life. And I love it. I love it so much. And that's why this is on my list as #1, because it has influenced me to write my own series, and it has also just cemented itself into my heart as one of the best things I've ever read in my entire life, and I absolutely adored it. Top to bottom, and as you can tell, it has influenced a lot of cozy fantasy reading this year. So it's fantastic. It's fantastic, and I love it. Those are the top 10 books, my top favorite books of 2022. Let me know down below if you've read any of these, as well as your top favorites of 2022, because I'd love to know what yours are. I am so excited to see what 2023 brings, because we're looking at some really good releases. If you've seen my 2023 anticipated releases video, since that video, there have been more that have come to my attention even. So it's going to be such a good year for books. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that cozy fantasy is going to continue to take over my life, and hopefully I will have my own out there very soon, and you guys enjoy that as well. I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go read. I'm gonna go enjoy my night and read. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will catch you in another video very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.